So hello friends, welcome to Mentor Vikas channel, and in this video we are going to explore variables and data types in JavaScript, right? And along with this we are also going to explore the concept of cohesion and conversion in JavaScript, right? So here is the introductory section where you will find that we start with the introduction, then we go with why do we call these variables as a building block in JavaScript, then we move to the essential data types that we use in JavaScript, and finally we cover this coherence and conversion, right, in the same video, right? So let's start with the introduction. So in this introduction I am just willing to give you a basic overview of why basically we do use these variables and data types. Okay, so these variables and data types, what we known as the building block of JavaScript, as you can also see here, right? And by using these variables and data types we create logics and functionalities in JavaScript. Okay, so whatever the functionality you may want to create in JavaScript is going to start with these variables and data types, right? And finally by using these data types and variables and the other concepts in our JavaScript, which is provided by ECMAScript, right? So we are going to create our functionalities. So let's start with what is these variables, right? So you can consider these variables as in container, right? So let's take in practical examples. Okay, so let's say this and this and this and this, all these four are boys. Okay, so there we have four boys, and let's say if I want to call this boy, okay, then what should I say? Hey boy standing at second number, please come here. Or hey boy standing at third number, please come here. Okay, and what could be the easiest possible way? The easiest possible way is we can give them a name, right? Here I assign a name to Ram, this and this I am assigning a name that Shyam, and here I am assigning a name hey John, and here hey Karen, right? So we had assigned these four names. Okay, so now whenever I call Ram, this person will automatically know that okay, my name is Ram and he is calling me. If I say Shyam, then he will understand that we are talking about him, right? So in this way, just by referring each person with an identity, right, it make this process so simple, right? So in the same way, whenever we define two values, for example, let's say I am defining 23 and I am defining something that is 25. Okay, but let's say give this 23 a name. Okay, so let's store this 23 in a name that we known as A, and let's store this 25 in a name that we call B. Okay, then why we are not just referring this 23 and 25? Instead of we are referring A and B. Let's say I am going to use this number in several places. Okay, so let's say this is not just a short number but a number like 2 3 4 5 6 1, and this number is 2 5 6 1 7 2, right? So in the next time when I have to add these two numbers, I have to mention like 2 3 4 5 6 1 plus 2 5 0 1 7 2. Or if I have to subtract, then I have to write 2 3 4 5 8 6 7 minus 2 5 0 1 7 2. Okay, so as you can see, I have to rewrite all these again and again. Okay, what I can also do is instead of doing this, right, and I'm just taking a limited a number, right? It could be a number that is up to 100 digit, right? It could be, right? So instead of writing these number again, what I do, I just refer these number to a name. Okay, I assign a name to this. So let's say A, and here I am assigning a B. So next time if I just want to add these two number, I can just say A plus B. If I just want to subtract that, I can say A minus B. If I want to divide, A divided by B, and in this way I can do the same process but in a more simpler manner. Okay, so this is what we call variables. Okay, and now we have three different methods to declare a variable. Okay, so we use var, and then we can define our variable like, let's say a var A is equals to 23, var V is equals to 25, and let's say var C, that var var c is equals to a plus b. So whatever the value that we get by adding these two numbers will be stored into this c variable. Okay, and what does it mean? It simply means that in your memory, allocate a place. Okay, so it basically refers to a place in your memory. For example, so this is our memory card. Okay, this is your memory card, and here in this memory card there are spaces. Okay, so this space is taken by this a variable, and whatever the value you do assign to this a will be stored here. At that same time, whenever we call this a, it will refers to this place. Okay, so then if I am declaring a variable b, then it again assign a space to this variable, right? And if I assign c, then it will then again create a space into your memory, or consume the space into our memory, right? So in the same way, as the number of variables declare, it will occupy the space in my memory, right? So that's how you basically create variables, right? And you can use these three popular ways. So earlier variable, that is var, is used to declare the variable, but nowadays with ECMAScript 6 or later, I will talk about this ECMAScript in my further videos, but let's say nowadays we do use let and const method to declare the variable, where in a simple way const refers to those values which we don't want to change. Okay, and let refers to those values that we want to manipulate or change again and again, right? So these are the common difference, but we have a lot more different among these, and we will talk about these in our further videos, right? So let's say here we have created a simple program, and here we are declaring a variable x. Okay, and this x, and in this x we store this value 5, right? Then we say if true. So this true means, let's say we define another variable whose name is true, and here we store either false or either true, right? And now if I just use this is true here, then it simply refers to whatever the value I had stored there, right? So if I'm just directly referring true, so that means I am allowing this block of code to execute. Okay, and if I refers if instead of using this true, if I use this false, then this is not going to allow to execute this part of my code. Okay, that means here the condition is false. Okay, and if it is false, this block of code will not execute, and if it is true, then this block is code it is going to execute, right? So let's say here we had defined, okay, the condition is true, then finally we have to execute x is equals to variable x, then we again declare a variable x and assign a value 10. Now if we do console, so what basically this console means, we are trying to get the output. Okay, then we want to print the value of x, right? So if I want to print the value of x, I do use console.log in JavaScript. What we do use console.log, and within this bracket we just put the name of the variable that we want to print, right? So here it will print the output 10. And why? Because initially we had assigned x, we had defined a value, we had defined a memory, right? A place in our memory with the name x, and here initially it stored 5, right? And then we finally assign this x once again, and we refer this value now 10. So instead of this 5, now its value became 10, right? So now if I just console here, it gives me the value 10, right? But if even after this block, okay, so this section what we called a block. So if I start this curly braces and close this curly braces in my JavaScript program, then this refers to a block, and anything which I had written here within this block will always be available within this block, and I can't access its value outside of this block. Okay, so that is what we call block scope. Okay, so scope means boundary, right? So this behavior in JavaScript what we refer as block scope, right? And here we have another, let's say I'm defining a function. Okay, let's leave it. Function we will about function we will talk about in another videos, right? So let's say if this value can't go beyond these brackets, then how, if I'm printing this x value to this place will again give me the output of 10. If I'm just telling you that the behavior of this block will never bypass this this block section. Okay, so if I assign the value 10, it will always remain its value 10 within this block. Okay, and apart from, if I try to access this value outside of this block, it should not be give me the value 10, but here it is giving me the value 10. That means this x which I had defined here is not just creating a separate. It means that if I had create an x, it creates an x in my memory. Okay, so let's say here I am referring this block as a memory, right? So this x is pointing to this block, right? And if I am again create a new x, right, then at this time it also referring to the same position, the same memory location, right? And it, instead of creating a separate one, it basically manipulate the same which I had referred as x earlier, right? So this behavior is not going to happen if you let's say create a variable y equals to 10, right? Because if you define a value y, then y is not present in my memory, right? So then it will assign a new location to my memory and then assign its a value 10. So if I just console y here, then it will give me let's say 10, and if I just console here x, then it will give me 5. But instead, because of I am using the variable x here, then it basically manipulate the same value which earlier stored as x in my memory, right? So but you have to understand this, only this behavior will occur when you use var, when you use this var to declare the x. Okay, instead, if I don't use this var, if I use this let keyword to define this variable, then you will see we are not going to see the same behavior as the output 10 and 10 both places, right? So if I, instead of using this var, if I just use let, then what could be the behavior? Then the behavior is here, if you output the value of x, it will refer 10, and here if you output the value of x, it will refer 5. And why it is so? Because when declaring these x, it will create, let's say I am also using here let, right? So while declaring this value x, it will create an x position in my memory, and if I am declaring this value in a block, then if I am using this let to declare a value, it will create another location in my memory. It will access another location in my memory and store these 10 into this section, right? So this will happen if when you use let instead of var, and if you are using var, then these behavior will not behave in the same way as you are willing to, right? So because var doesn't follow the principle of functional scope or block scope, right? So that's the difference between this let and var. Okay, I hope you had a general understanding of what's the behavior when you use var and what's the level behavior when you use let, right, in JavaScript. So that is why it is written here that let's say it has a functional scope rather than the block scope. Okay, so that means it doesn't follow the functional scope property, right? And instead of, when we talk about let, it follows both blocking scope and functional scope. Okay, then it follows the block scope. That means if I want to access its value here, it would be different, and if I want to access the same y value here, it would be different, because this value can't be go beyond this scope, beyond this block, right? So that's the main difference between these two. And why do we use const? So we use that const variable in our JavaScript to define that, okay, I am declaring a variable which is immutable, right? So what basically means by immutable, which can't be changed, right? Which can't be changed. Okay, so that value that I want to represent as a constant value, I can refer those values as const, right? So what will happen if I just again, let's say I'm trying to declare the same pi value again, right, with some another value, let's say 3.715, then our system gives us error. Okay, and our system says, no, you can't do this, we are not allowed if you are using const, right? But this can be happen if you are using let or var. Okay, then your system does not give you error, but instead allow you to do that, right? So that's the fundamental difference between let, const and var. So this is an basic overview, right? And as we progress with the multiple examples and its use cases, you will definitely going to understand it in many clear way, right? So let's move to the fundamental data types that we use in JavaScript. Okay, so there we have some data types. So the basic data types we have string, number and boolean, right? So these are the basic data types, and apart from these we have two more that in some tutorials you may refer you may listen that okay, these null and undefined are not the actually variable at the data types. Okay, but actually these null and undefined is also data types, right? So let's understand what when we use string. So whenever I want to declare some name or some statement, okay, and I want to store those string or a collection of word in a variable that we refer as string, right? So when we want to define a number, that number could be a simple number or a decimal point, right? Or in technical terms we name these floating points, right? So these are the floating points or floating number, and these are the simple number, right? So either you want to declare a variable, either you want to declare a simple number or you want to declare a floating number. Okay, both are refers as number in JavaScript. Okay, and if you want to just represent a boolean value, so boolean value is refers to as true or false. Okay, so in technical terms you can say it's 0, it's 1. Okay, in technical terms it's 0 and it's 1, but if you want to just say okay, some condition is true or false, right? So then you simply refer as boolean value, right? So if is raining, if currently it's raining, no, it's currently not raining, then we refer as false. If it's raining, if it is, then we refer as true, right? So these two values what we refer as boolean data type. Okay, and what are these null and undefined? Okay, so let's understand this in this manner. Let's say I am declaring a variable a in my JavaScript, right? And now if I just want to console this value, what I can say, I just want to print its value, console console.log a, right? Then what would it print? It will print me undefined. It will print undefined, right? So basically it means that okay, you had declared a, okay, you had declared the variable name a, but you do not had assigned any value to this. Okay, but you do not had assigned any value to this, so I basically don't know about if it has any value or not, right? So in that case our system basically assign a value to this, and that value is what we known as undefined, or you can say it's undefined data type, right? And at the same time, if you are by intentionally you want to inform your program that okay, currently I do not have any value for this, right? So let's say I am declaring the same variable let a, but this time instead of just defining this a like this, what I am going to do, I am just going to say a is equals to null. Okay, so by doing this I am telling my system that okay, I am defining a value a, but at present I really do not have any value for this. Okay, maybe in future we will assign some value to this. So here I am intentionally inform my program that I do not have any value at current, right? And if you do not declare this, then by default program will understand, okay, you had declared these variable, but you do not had assign any value to it. Okay, so then it will become undefined, and if you by intentionally define this null value to it, then it will take as, okay, it's an empty box. Okay, so we do not have any value, but we will find it, right? So that's the main difference between null data type and undefined data type. Okay, right? So let's move further and understand what is coercion and conversion, right? So what basically coercion means. So as you can see here, I had taken a little example. Let's say you define a variable named result, right? And here you are trying to add these two values. So as you can see, this is a string, this is a string, and this is a number, right? So if you try to save its result into a variable, let's say 5 plus 3, but this 5 is a string and 3 is a number, then the output would be 53. Then maybe your next question is, how could this JavaScript add 5 and 3 and gives a result 53? Okay, so yes, you are right, it is not correct. Okay, but what basically JavaScript does, so what behavior does the JavaScript follows? So whatever the type of the first value will directly assign to the final result. Okay, so let's say, so this is a string, this is a string, so then it refers to this, whatever the further values that will be in this series I will get, it will also be a string. Okay, so that means it again treat this 3 is as a string. Okay, if I just add here more 4 or 5 or 6, then the output result would be 5 3 4 5 6. Okay, what would be the result? 5 3 4 5 6, because of the first variable. Okay, because the first value is a string, then it also then JavaScript treat all the further values as string. Okay, let's say what will happen if instead of doing this, if I just create the same result, right, and instead of the first value as in string, I just refer as number, and then I am using these 3 and 3 and 3 as in string, then what could be the value? Then if we console this result, then what will be the value? Then the value will be 3 plus 5 8, 8 plus 3 11, 11 plus 3 it's 14. Then the output will be 14. Then it's not 5 3 3 3 3. Okay, then you will not find this value. Okay, why? Because the first value that while executing this code, the first value it interact with is a number. Then by default it consider that all the further values that he will get is a number, right? So that is what we call type coercion. Okay, so basically by default JavaScript try to understand the type of the result, okay, but the type of the variable, and it will by default trying to assign the value based upon what you had performed here. Okay, so that is what we call type, that is what we call type coercion, right? But what is type conversion? So when we intentionally by intention try to change the type of a data type into some another data type, right? So then we call is a type conversion. That is what we call type conversion. For example, as you can see here this 1 2 3 is a string, right? Here this 1 2 3 is a string, and by intentionally we want to convert this data type from string to a number. Okay, so to convert this string to number, we use number. This is a method provided by JavaScript by default, right? So by using this you can simply convert this string into a number, right? So the same thing, if you try to convert this, for example, if I just write Vikas, right, and if I just try to convert this Vikas to a number, then this will not work. Okay, so it only works if the number if the value inside this string can be converted to a number. Okay, else it will give you error. Okay, so that's the difference between this type coercion and type conversion. So type coercion is the default system that JavaScript consider to convert to assign the data type to a new variable. Okay, and the type conversion is when we by intention try to define the type of a variable. right? So this is the difference between type coercion and type conversion. Okay, so I hope now you have an understanding of what is JavaScript, why basically these building blocks, these variables are the building blocks in our JavaScript, what are these variable, let and const, what are the fundamental data types, and what is the difference between type coercion and type conversion, right? So this is all for this video. If you have any suggestions, you can comment in the comment block. Okay, and please do like this video, subscribe this channel, and if you find this video useful, then let me know, and if you don't find this, let me know how I can improve the quality of this video. Okay, so let's meet you in our next video. Till then, have a nice day and goodbye.